All right, welcome to Secret Society of Man podcast. I am Ryan, and across from the table from me, as always, is my cousin Zach. Today we're going to discuss major politic stuff going around the world right now. But first, Zach was recently married. We talked about it in one of our previous podcasts. And how'd it go? How'd your honeymoon go? I was at your wedding, so that went pretty well. One of the quickest ceremonies I've ever seen.
I think
10 minutes maybe?
Not
if
even
that,
bro. Yeah, I mean, the ceremony was like 5 minutes or less. And like that was one of my worries going in, is like we were going over this. And I pulled just a script online, because I didn't want to write something myself. And I was reading it. I'm like, well, it sounds good, but it's like pretty short. And so I told Don, who was officiating the wedding, like, man, I could make a longer script to kill more time, but like, I don't really want to just have you talk about love for 10 more minutes. So, if you want to add something more personal and like make it longer and like, add something in like Anne-Marie, our aunt, had a lot of like more personal stuff to say at your wedding, like you can go ahead and do that. Otherwise, there's no reason to make it any longer. We pretty much just stuck with what we gave them. And I will say, though, that I think certain people probably were pretty appreciative. Like Uncle Troy, he was like, wow, like, thanks for being so respectful of our time. Like, people, they don't want to sit there forever. But, I mean, if I had someone different officiating who, like, had a lot to say and, like, was really comfortable being on stage, then, having it longer would be nicer. But overall, bro, that wedding went off pretty much without a hitch. We were done by 3 p.m. Everyone went home, and it's just like great. I don't have to sit there and like try to hold down the dance floor for 3 hours. So everything was perfect.
So let me ask you, what was the thought process behind a day wedding instead of evening/night, afternoon?
Well, we kind of wanted to do like a brunch at first for the meal, but the options were kind of limited for where we could get. So Christy just kind of thought that was nicer. Also, like, we weren't even sure if half the people in the wedding party would show up depending on when their babies were born. Like, everyone's got a little baby, right? Like, Hayden had 2 kids running around there. Like, I had my daughter there. You didn't have your son, but, like, Veda.
You would have known if I had my
daughter. Veda had a baby too, so it was like everyone was just trying to get out of there.
Sure.
And there's no alcohol either, so it's not like people were going to stick around and, like, drink, right? So we just sent everybody home, and then the next day we flew out at 6 a.m., so we didn't want to be out there till 10 p.m.
Tired.
Yeah, so everything worked out.
Okay. All right, so you flew out at 10 a.m., you said. How'd it go getting to the airport? Were there any trip-ups through security? Was it pretty smooth sailing? Or?
Yeah, we got there even before the Sun Country people got there to check our bag.
Okay.
So I am somebody who missed a flight one time, and I will never miss a flight again. Like, I get there at least 2 hours before my flight leaves, if not more than that. I would rather sit in that airport for 3 hours, not stressing, than like rush into the airport and like feel like I'm going to miss my flight. There's nothing worse than being in security that's moving slow when your flight is about to take off in 20 minutes. Like, you're just sitting there like, I hope I don't miss it. And then eventually, like, the time passes. You're like, okay, great, I missed it. Then you have to sit in the airport all day trying to find a flight on standby, and it's just a huge pain in the ass. So wasn't going to risk it. But, the flight was good or whatever. We went up to Fort Myers in Florida, which is on like the Gulf of Mexico side. You never been there, have you?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
So pretty nice area. Like, one thing interesting about Florida is there's like a huge disparity between the wealthy properties and the poor properties. So we were talking to our Uber drivers there about the hurricanes, because that's obviously a huge thing to consider. We were, of course, you're fantasizing about, what would it be like to live here or whatever. And we were asking them about like insurance and like these HOA fees. The HOA fees in the condo that we were staying at is $2,000 a month.
Oh,
a fucking month, bro.
Oh my god!
For the HOA fees.
Just the HOA fees.
Yeah, not to mention there was probably a $500,000 condo.
But you're like right on the ocean, though, right? Like
we're a block away from the ocean.
Yeah.
In a nice area. It was a nice ass high rise condo. I mean, it was great, right? But it probably was a $500,000 condo, and then also $2,000 a month. No way you're gonna make any money on that investment. But the reason is because insurance companies don't want to insure down there.
The hurricane,
and so if you have a condo, the HOA just has to save up enough money before the next hurricane hits to repair everything.
To pay for it. Yeah.
And everything was in great condition. But then every Uber drive back to the hotel, we would pass this area that was like basically a trailer park. And so it was a bunch of little tiny trailer homes, and they were so destroyed. Like the roofs were tarps, like everything was just super run down, and the people were just like barely surviving. And this was like a walking distance from this amazing condo that we were staying at. And they were talking about just, some of the big hotels and things, like the hurricane hits, destroys these places. It is back up within a matter of a couple months. But then you have these small, cheap properties that still are in disrepair to this day. So it just goes to show you where the priorities are when it comes to diverting these resources.
That's crazy. So you were down there for 4 days, correct? 4 days?
Yeah, 4 days.
What was like, I'm guessing, did you guys, some couples are different, like when Carly and I went down for our honeymoon, we had zero itinerary. Like it was like, kind of just go into what are you feeling for the day? Like, let's do that kind of stuff. Did you go into that vibe, or were you more kind of like...
Yeah, that's us.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Okay. Like, first thing we did was just, like, pretty much nap. Like, we just chill there because, like, one of us has to wake up at, like, 5 o'clock every morning at the latest for our dogs and stuff. So it was nice being able to just, like, catch up on sleep. But, yeah, my number one goal whenever I go on vacation is food. So I knew that for the most part we'd wing it. I wanted to go to, like, one nice restaurant where I needed reservations for like a more expensive meal, and then I wanted to do an excursion or something. So I pretty much just ate seafood the whole time. Every single meal I went for seafood, and it was great. So like first thing I had was a snapper, like fish sandwich, and that was really delicious. I had a bunch of oysters while I was there, and then we had this one place called the Firestone, which is a restaurant that's in an old abandoned like tire factory, and so they had like delicious food there. It was like $120 for the meal, which is not that bad compared to like, that's pretty much what I spent every meal was $100. But it was like amazing food. I had escargot, which is, snail. I don't know if I sent you a picture of that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it came with like a pastry, so it didn't come in the shell, but like that was really good. I had this like big ass piece of veal, a dish called osso buco or whatever. It's like, I don't know if I sent you a picture of that, but it's just like this big piece of meat on a bone. Looks like something a Viking would eat with like this with risotto. And so it was like delicious meal. So the food was great. And we went and saw the manatees. So we went kayaking in this like canal thing. And there was a shitload of manatees, bro. Like, I don't know. I kind of had low expectations. Like, oh, maybe we'll see a flipper come up or something like that. But no, bro. Like, they'll come right up to your kayak and they'll start, like, pushing you around. It's amazing how many we saw. But I guess, like, there's a factory that pushes water out into this canal, and it's warm. And so that's why the manatees like to be there. But they all have scars. From the boats, yeah. And a boat did come through, so you can go on like no wake, low speed through that canal. But I don't know. I guess they like to go up to boats and just say hi or whatever, and they just get whipped by the propeller. Every single one has scars like that. So I guess that's just something that happens. But what a crazy looking creature, dude! Like, manatees? Yeah, they're super cute, but they're also like there's like little sea cows. Yeah. I don't know, like nothing like them.
It's like a toothless walrus. I feel like.
They have that same kind of face. Yeah. It's a mix between a dolphin and a walrus in a way.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. Did you see any sharks or like...
No, Christy really wanted to see an alligator. That's like her favorite animal. Really? Yeah, if she could go swim with the alligators. As far as I know, yeah. I don't know. She loves like alligators, crocodiles. Okay. Like if we could have gone swimming with the freaking crocodiles, dude, she would have done that. We didn't see any though. Okay. Apparently, there's one that lives like in like the mangroves. Like interesting plants that we saw there, but like these mangroves, they look like islands or whatever. But I guess there's just like really a cluster of plants. Like there's nothing to walk on in there. But it's just a really unique plant it's in these like swampy sort of areas. I've just never seen anything like that before. And we also saw these like fig trees in a couple different places. Okay. We went to Thomas Edison and Henry Ford's winter home. Wow. So it's over in Fort Myers there, right by downtown. And so first Thomas Edison bought like a big parcel there on the beach. And then later on, Henry Ford bought the house next to them, and I guess they were like buddies, right? And so they would winter there. And there's this like giant ass fig tree in the middle of like between the house and the beach, and it's basically impossible to describe what it looks like, but I never thought that a fig tree would look like this. Like, it's just this exotic looking tree where the roots come out super far out of the ground, but like it looks like the tree's like walking in some way. Like, amazing plants there. And we got to like walk through his lab where he discovered rubber and shit like that. So pretty fascinating stuff. Like, I always like when things like that exceed your expectations, because that day we didn't really know what else to do. We're like, we'll check this place out. Ended up being like one of the highlights of the trip. It was it was like $30, and we got to walk through their houses. There was like an audio tour, and then you got to walk through the lab, and then there was a whole museum dedicated to them too. Pretty cool stuff.
Wow. Well, that's cool. So you didn't see any alligators. You saw manatees. Did you do anything else? Because I remember I think this was when you were in Mexico, a long time ago, with your dad and whatever. You went like barracuda fishing?
Oh yeah, deep sea fishing.
Yeah, did you think about doing that at all?
Well, we talked about it when we were walking through the houses at those estates. Like, they showed like a lot of the fishing that would happen there and like in that town. And Christy at that point was like, "Oh, we should have gone like deep sea fishing." I didn't know that's something she would have been interested in, but I guess she would have been. So that would have been cool. But I think you could even do that around here, like on the Great Lakes, to go salmon fishing or something like that. I think that'd be cool.
Stuff like that. Yeah.
That'd be nice. But yeah, we caught a barracuda way back then. That shit kind of makes me nervous though, because of how that ended up going down back then, because it was like raining that day, and like the waves were bigger. Like, you couldn't see over the waves, and we're on this tiny little fishing boat. Yeah, the water was so bad that the boat couldn't get to shore, so we had to like swim out there to get to the boat. Yeah, because it was too rough. And then they brought us out. And
pass, dude. Like, no, you
already paid for it, dude.
I've seen the shows, man. How many times have you seen that? Survived at sea for fucking 30 days.
Yeah, we're marooned on an island.
Capsizes, yeah. Oh my God. As you know, sharks are like my biggest fear. Which is interesting, because when we went on our honeymoon, we did sea turtle diving and stuff like that. And I mean, they take you out there, and they're just like, they give you like snorkel stuff, but they're like, go, like dive, just jump off the boat. For some reason, I had zero issues doing that. I had no trepidation jumping in the water at all. Now, I think a lot of it is because you're with a group of like 40 people, and sharks typically hate like a mass of people like that. They don't like the noise and shit.
And they can only eat one at a time.
Correct.
So it's like 1 in 40 chance.
I mean, you know what I mean? So, but no, I was just curious, like, if you guys did do excursions, because I mean, I've always wanted to do deep sea fishing, dude, but it scares the shit out of me, because like,
I'd want a bigger boat. Like, I don't want a boat that looks like it costs like $300. Like, I want one that has 2 stories. Like, the boat needs to have a bar.
Like Jeff Bezos owns it or something.
Yeah, like something's sturdy that like that is bigger than any fish can take out. But like a whale could have gotten us.
Have you seen that video recently of a whale like capsizing a boat?
No.
Just I don't know where they're like whale watching or something. Whale just
oh my God,
jumps on the end of the boat, and the thing just
wow, that's crazy.
So. Well, I think what would freak me out is, like, now you're in the water with these suckers, dude. Like, most whales, other than, like, killer whales, typically aren't, like, meat eaters. They're more like krill or, like, other very small stuff. But, dude, like, that stuff, it freaks me out, man. The sea is not for me, man. The ocean is not for me. I respect it. I respect the power. But, like, the kayak thing, bro, I don't know if I would get in a kayak.
Well, the good part about the kayaking was that the only issue I have with it is that this looks exactly like where alligators hang out. That's right? But it was very shallow. So like if you
3 feet?
It was shallow enough at some parts where you would get your kayak stuck. I mean, like less than a foot at some parts, but then it got down I think to 12 feet at the most. But like if you fell, you could easily find a footing somewhere. But I'd be worried about alligators immediately. But when we were waiting for them to get our kayaks ready, when we were checked in for our tour, there's this group that went by us first, and there was this like big lady, dude. Like she was big, bro. They probably had to give her a double kayak in order to. Yeah, I mean, yeah, at 300 at least, I would say. Yeah, she was pretty damn big, bro.
She wants to go kayaking.
She wants to go kayaking, and you know that her friends who were all fit, they made her go. Like she didn't want to go, bro. She wanted to sit at Bubba Gump's, right, and eat. Yeah, but they're like, come on, like let's all go. And she's probably like, fine, all right, we'll go. And so they go ahead of us or whatever. Well, at some point during our tour, we end up hearing some lady scream down the swamp. And she's like, I fucking hate this. And she's like, she fell into the water. And she's like trying to get back on her kayak. And it's like never going to happen, bro.
Not a chance, dude. Oh, my God. So I think, a lot of people, alligator fear is a real thing. Like, people talk to me about, like, or, make fun of me with sharks and stuff. But, like, the thing that separates alligators and sharks is that some people don't understand this. Like, alligators and crocodiles are literally bred to kill humans. Like, you are on the food chain for them. Like, there's no, like, mistaken bite.
Yeah. They were just curious,
right.
Yeah.
No. They, like, literally hunt humans.
Wow.
Like, the largest animal massacre in the world is from crocodiles. Killing, I think it was, like, over 1,000 people or something like that. Back in, like, World War II. Different story. But the point is, like, people don't understand, like, they literally want to eat you. There is no, like, they're not just curious. Like, they actually want to kill you. It's like a polar bear. Oh, they're so cute. No, they'll maul your ass, dude. Like, you are food to them. There is no mistake of, like, oh, I'm not interested in you. No, they are interested in you, and they will eat you. So that would freak me the fuck out,
Yeah, and when you're in the water, you're so out of your element. Like, I would not really. I think I could outrun a crocodile or whatever on land. Like, that'd be all good. But it's the fact that you can't see. I think what makes snorkeling easier than like maybe even kayaking in a swamp or something is that you can see what's going on. Like anywhere that you're going snorkeling, it's crystal clear water, so you can keep your head on a swivel and like look out for sharks or whatever, and you will see things that are like dangerous in the water. But like being able to, well, yeah, I mean, when I've gone, I've seen like stingrays and barracudas and shit, right? But it's like you can see them, and you go, and let everyone know, and then you can kind of stay safe, keep your distance. But if you can't see what's going on, that immediately becomes scarier. Even if it's 6 feet deep water, you don't know what's going to happen. Yeah.
No, I need to see it. For sure.
Even like in rivers and things, like I feel like swimming in the St. Croix would be if you could see what's. Yeah, I mean, I know, like I've definitely gone swimming down there, but I think that because you don't think that there's anything huge, but then you hear about like muskies and things, you see how big those are.
Or catfish, dude. Like
catfish, even.
Dude, catfish can get up to like 7 feet.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. That's they might. I mean, they probably would nibble you, but.
But yeah, muskies have bitten people for sure. Yeah.
Or the snapping turtles, like those got to be all over down there.
You see
like
how they get spiky too?
Yeah, those things are crazy. Those are dinosaurs. Yeah, that's nuts. Did you ever hear about the story? I forgot what the ship is called, but it was a ship back in World War II, and you mentioning that war just reminded me of this. But it was the ship that was delivering the materials needed for the nuclear bombs. So they were on this secret mission, and so barely anybody knew that the ship was even traveling. So they get there, mission successful. On their way back, they end up getting hit by a torpedo, and the ship sinks. And so they're all trying to get into life rafts. It's a disaster situation. But it resulted in just like hundreds or thousands of guys just in the middle of the ocean, like swimming, because there wasn't enough life rafts for everybody. Yeah, and it was like multiple days of them just swimming there, treading in water, waiting for someone to come rescue them as sharks were just picking them off the whole time.
Yeah, that was the white tip shark is what they were known for. So there's the white tip oceanic shark is what it's called. Their size is not necessarily menacing, but they're like tiger sharks. Like they'll fucking eat anything, and they are them and bull sharks are very attracted to noise and wreckages and stuff like that. Yes, they were floating there, and essentially every night, like they were getting picked off one by one, And my God, dude, like what a hell to be in. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
nothing you can
Like,
do but just hope it's not
nothing,
you
bro.
next.
Dude, we'll get on to our later stuff here, but dude, there was a story I was watching. It gives me chills just talking about it. This guy was on like some Mexico scuba diving trip and gets lost from his group. And, I mean, it's some sketchy like company, so they didn't do a head count before they went back to shore. Then they realized, oh shit, we're missing one, right? Well, by the time that happened, he already drifted. It's been 3-4 hours.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's gone by the time they go back to the general area. Anyway, so he survived, I think it was 4 or 5 days total at sea, night and day, floating with scuba gear. Okay? So he would talk about, like the plankton that lights up in the water?
Yeah.
So he would talk about how, like, in the distance, he would see the plankton light up, like there's shit swimming out there, like at night, and he would just have to like close his eyes because he couldn't, like, mentally he couldn't. It was the only way he could survive mentally. He's like, I'm literally a sitting duck. Like,
yeah, like what a worst case scenario. Because like anywhere that you can crash land or end up stranded on land, you can kind of like figure something out. You're like, okay, so I got to build shelter and like you can put something together. Yeah. But if you're just in the middle of the ocean, there's no land anywhere. Yeah. There's nothing you can't even move. You just have to sit there and hope.
Nothing eats you.
Yeah. And hope someone can find you because there's like, you can't make a smoke signal, or anything like that. Yep. Yeah, a horrible situation, bro. Wow.
Anyway, did you want to cover anything else on your honeymoon? Or?
No, but I guess the only other thing is like I was just trying to think, is there any difference in being married? And like if you look at just the way the life is structured, I mean, really there isn't, but whenever you were married, did you feel like an increased sense of responsibility or anything like that? Like
I mean, more of like a voucher, I guess you could say, like more of like it's on you to help run the house like in a more smooth manner.
Yeah.
Like, you need to make more decisions, like stuff like that. But yes, I definitely did feel like a sense of, and I think the way we did it, combining like our finances and stuff, it just automatically builds more like the feeling of more responsibility because now like you guys are truly tied to stuff. So like if something happens, you're both in it. You know what I mean? Like either one of us goes down, we're both going down. You know what I mean? Like it is what it is. So, and same thing going up. Like there's positive things to it too. But yes.
So you guys share all your bank accounts, or do you have like a bills shared account, but then you have your own account?
No, we completely merged as of like 2 months ago. Cause we were waiting. She had one account left that was separate prior to when we were married, and quite honestly, the only reason why it was kept was because we didn't want to get around to changing it because her student loans were coming out of that account. So she wasn't receiving money in that account anymore. We just waited until like it just depleted enough to where we had to merge it over to our accounts. So we finally did that like 2 months ago.
A lot of people are moving away from sharing everything.
They are, yes.
And I don't know, we haven't combined. We just opened up a shared bank account to put all the wedding gifts in. And we're going to use that for like just a home improvement project and things. But we do have like separate finances, and I don't know, like it seems like a comfortable way to do things, but it might actually help me if we did combine finances because I would feel more responsible. Like I wouldn't be spending as much money as frivolously because I know that if she was to ask me like, why are you going to Quick Trip, 3 times a day, like I would need to answer.
Dude, and that shit adds up. Like we had that talk too, like when I was working, or when I do work during the daytime. It's easy to pick up 2 or 3 of these a day.
Yep.
That's over $10 a day.
Yep, that's me every day. That kills me.
That doesn't include food. So if I want to pick up a sandwich at the gas station, add another $4 or $5.
Oh yeah.
Like I'm spending 15 to 20 a day. That's $140 in 2 weeks. That's a lot of money. Like that's half our groceries that we could be spending, right? So it's stuff like that where it's like in the moment it doesn't seem like a lot, but that shit adds up, dude.
And that's my number one vice above all else in life, and this has been my entire life, but it's just impulse buying food and drink that just fucking kills me. Like
Literally and figuratively.
Yeah, exactly. But it's so bad, bro. And it's just out of boredom half the time, where it's just like, I'm bored, let me just get an energy drink just for the fuck of it. And things are so expensive. Like, I used to go and get like a breakfast sandwich from Holiday until I realized that just like this one breakfast sandwich, which is like, you go to the gas station because like, oh, let me get some cheap food. It's not as good as if I went to McDonald's, or not as good tasting, I should say, as if I went to McDonald's, but like it should be cheaper. Then I realized that this little breakfast sandwich is like $6 from Holiday. And you're like, why am I doing this? This isn't even good.
No.
I'd
rather spend that at McDonald's. Dude.
Exactly. Like, might as well,
Yeah.
And then once I come to that logic, then I just start going to McDonald's. Yeah. And then it's like, it's $13 for a Big Mac meal. Yeah, it's ridiculous, bro. So I think that might be better for me. So I do really good with accountability. Like, when no one's watching, I just don't make the right decisions. But like, if I have someone to answer to, then I feel like I'd do better. So yeah, but then I think a lot of guys though would also be mad at like what their women end up buying. Like, Christy doesn't really do like facials and stuff like that all that much, but some women, I'd say like the average woman, I think, spends a lot of money on hair and things like that. Like, would you be mad? Like, what?
No. I think no, because Carly's the same way. She's very good at. In fact, I would say she's even more mindful than me on like spending money. So I don't know. Here's the thing, like, this kind of defeats the purpose of marriage, because marriage is all about you are one, right? It's unity. But if your girlfriend, if there is if there's a serious problem with spending, probably should get figured out before marriage.
Yeah.
Because if in the event that she or he, could be a he, wants to spend all the money, maybe like hold off the marriage for a little bit, or just maybe end it. I don't know what the situation might be financially, but it doesn't matter. It's kind of like, to me, it's kind of like a diet. So like, it doesn't matter how many hours you work out. If you eat McDonald's 3 times a day, it's not going to do anything for you. Like, you might get some benefit out of working out, but like 80% of weight loss and toned is your diet, like of what you're eating. So it's the same concept. You can make $200,000 a year, but if you are going out to eat all the time, if you're spending it on sports games, like actual events, like Wild, Vikings, whatever it may be, and like those are expensive. And it doesn't matter how much you make, because you're just spending more. It's the same concept. So definitely get that shit figured out for people who may be struggling with that. Like, it's okay, like, if you have a problem, but like, it needs to get figured out, because with the responsibility of marriage, like, you will take that person down with you if that's the case, right? So get that figured out, So.
Yeah, and all the people, all the times that I help people buy houses and got to look at their finances and things like that. It's just amazing. Where like almost all my clients never have any money, but sometimes you see somebody and you're like, dude, you make a lot of money. So where is it?
Where's it going?
Yeah. How many times you go into Pizza Hut a week?
Yeah.
And it's just crazy, because you can talk to somebody and you can both be complaining about how poor you are, but like one of those people could make 3 times as much as another person. Especially if you get into like borrowing money for cars and boats and things, like that's so common nowadays. But yeah, I guess get a credit check before you get married, I suppose.
You can. I mean, look into like missed payments, because again, once you get married, like, their debt is your debt, and their baggage is your baggage, and vice versa. So
there's a show on YouTube called Financial Audit. You ever watched this before?
I don't think so.
So if you like the Dave Ramsey clips where people call in and talk about their fucked up situation, this guy's kind of like Dave Ramsey, but more like our generation, Some people don't like Dave Ramsey just because of his philosophies.
He's aggressive.
Yeah.
Some things. Yeah.
But this guy, he's just a accountant or whatever, and so he'll have people on the show. It's like a podcast basically, and he'll go through all of their stuff, like all their bank accounts, all their cards, everything, and you get to hear these couples like try to like account for things, or like things will come out that the guy's like, oh, well, she was handling all the finances, like, but then she's completely mishandling it, like opening up cards he's not aware of. It's amazing how ignorant some people are about their money. And I think it kind of is a self-fulfilling prophecy, because I've definitely been in situations where I don't have a lot of money in my life, and then that makes me not want to check my bank account because I don't even want to see the number. I don't want to see how low it is. So I never open it up, but then you don't know where any of your money is.
Correct.
All the most successful people that I know that are actual millionaires, they check their bank every single day.
I do. So I look at my bank account, and I'm not a millionaire, but I look at my bank account probably 3 to 4 times a day. Usually at least twice before noon and twice the rest of the day. Usually when I get home from work and right before I'm going to bed. Now, some of that has to do with just seeing if bills came out. Because sometimes, luckily, we make enough money to where I don't need to worry about bills on certain dates. I just want to know, oh, hey, that bill came out today. So tomorrow, like, this is how much I want to spend or I have to spend, right? So, like, tomorrow we have the day off. We're planning on going out. The mother-in-law's watching the kiddo tomorrow all day, so we get to actually, like, get out of the house. So that way, like, tonight before I go to bed, and then tomorrow morning, I'm going to look at our account and be like, hey, here's what we're going to spend, that kind of stuff. So I check it a lot.
That's a good husband right there, head of the household.
Yeah, can't lose the house.
Yeah.
That's the thing. But anyway.
All right, let's talk about Trump.
Yeah, go ahead, lead off, dude.
All right.
What you got?
So there's been a lot going on. Pretty much right away, he was signing all those executive orders and things. And we'll talk a little about like what's been going on. But one thing that's really striking to me is just how much has happened compared to like some presidents. It just seems like they're not really able to get anything done. And then they say, well, everything's getting clogged up by Congress or whatever. But it's just like, it seems so easy for Trump to just do so much stuff that it just makes other presidents look like, what were you doing this whole time?
Correct.
Like, you had all these things you wanted to do and you didn't do them. It seems like it's just as easy as signing a piece of paper. Now, it seems like he can kind of make whatever executive orders that he wants, and then some of it will get challenged in court or whatever, so maybe it won't all be finalized. But definitely stuff is happening, like the deportations, right? So this is a lot of this being like televised, but this is one of those things he said he wanted to do. It's something that you would think like any president would have wanted to take action on this. There's obviously people that are against what's going on. Sometimes out of like ignorance of like what the rules are, but it seemed like it wasn't that hard to get illegal immigrants to be deported out of this country. And so that just tells me that there's like the previous presidents, they are choosing not to do it. They're like just choosing to ignore this issue. Like they're actually in support of having illegal immigrants in the country. I don't understand what their perspective is on this.
Yeah, so there is a lot to unpack here with a lot of different angles and stuff. But we'll start with the immigration stuff. So what I found interesting was there was it was either Jamaican or Haitian. You know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do.
The guy was literally like praising Biden and Obama.
Yeah, as he was getting put into the police car, he's like, "Thanks, Obama. Thanks, Joe Biden, for everything you did for me."
Like, that looks really bad.
Oh, yeah.
This dude, I don't know what his rap sheet was, but they made it very clear, like, 90% or more of these people that they're deporting are, like, heavy criminals. Like, criminals that not only have victimized people, but, like murdered, raped, like very sinister crimes.
Yeah, that guy in particular, he was a 17-time felon. Yeah. So, and they just let him back out.
So the problem becomes, like, they're a vote, right? And we've talked about this before where, like, if you give them freedom, like, undocumented, and all of a sudden you make people can be undocumented and vote, like, you're going to win, like, every time. Like, that's... And to be honest with you, I feel like that's part of why the Democrats are getting so angry right now is because Trump, literally every person he's deporting is a vote that the Democrats are losing.
So, I mean, maybe you could say that from the perspective of, like, the politicians. I mean, if undocumented people really are able to vote, which I don't know if that actually is happening, or not.
Minnesota was.
Okay, so if that's confirmed, then great. But like, so that makes sense. But I would guess that the average person who is not a politician, that is a Democrat and is upset about all this stuff, that's probably not the reason. Like, they're not sitting there like, oh, that guy would have voted for our side. Like, they have a different reason, and I don't know if it's just a pure empathy that they just don't like people to be put into these situations, or what.
They'd rather see them murder other people and be like, oh, but he's a good person.
Yeah, I guess. And it's just one of those things that just seems like it should be common sense.
Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, and I just don't get it. Like, I would love to have somebody on this podcast that is like a local person that just thinks that all that is completely wrong. Now, like, I know people that are afraid of like being deported or whatever, but they're not illegal immigrants, as far as I know. But they just, but they are like nervous about it. And so I think a lot of this though is people think that he's just deporting everybody, and he's not just deporting illegal immigrants.
No. Now, I don't know exactly what his steps are after the major criminals, but here's what I'll say. There are hundreds of thousands of these criminals in the U.S., so even before, if he has a step after this as far as deportation goes, it's going to be a while, because ICE is going to be overwhelmed with stuff for a while. They just hit Chicago. They just got out of Boston. So it's interesting to see. I don't know if they'll hit Minneapolis. I mean, we have a lot of like undocumented people up here, but it's interesting to see how ICE is gonna maneuver with this, because I remember the news said that the local agencies, like when they were in Boston, said they weren't going to help ICE at all. Like, and ICE is like, well, we don't care because we're going to go in and do it anyway.
Yeah,
so,
and then they did it and nothing happened.
Right.
Yeah.
So they're like, okay. So, all right. So now that we have that, let's talk about the Trump flying the Colombians back to.
Okay, yeah, I was actually just going to bring that up. Yeah.
Perfect. All right. So go ahead, bring it up.
Okay. So, and this is something where, like, I saw an article that came out, and it was on like a liberal subreddit. Because I follow these just to get the other perspective. And the article was that Trump is threatening tariffs on Colombia because Colombia was turning away the planes of the immigrants that he was trying to deport. Yeah. So he's trying to send them back to Colombia, and they wouldn't take them. And Trump says, okay, well, then we're going to put 25% tariffs on all the goods, and maybe a couple other threats in there, whatever.
50%.
A week later, go up to 50%. And the articles and all the comments are saying, like, see, what an idiot. Eggs are expensive. Now it's going to be coffee next. And just saying how bad of a move it was, because then in response, the Colombian president said, well, we're going to put tariffs on you, right? And so everyone's like, well, now, everything's gonna be way more expensive. Like, it's just gonna get worse for us. A couple days later, the article says that the Colombian president agreed to all of Trump's terms, and they're gonna take all the planes and anything Trump wants. They totally back down. Yep. And it just goes to show you, like, people are so quick to jump on that, and it's like, with all the criticism of these tariffs, like, yes, that would make things more expensive, but it's like a threat. It's a negotiating tool that he's using, and you can see that it is effective, right? So, and it may not be effective in every scenario going forward, and maybe it is going to make things more expensive for a while if countries don't back down, but you can now see what he's going for when he does make threats like this, because you can see it is actually an effective tactic.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing that I can't get around is they're always like, well, tariffs only help the rich. And it's like, bro, here's my problem, okay? And I really try and come at this as calmly as I can. I don't wake up in the morning and I'm just so pissed off at Jeff Bezos because of his success in life. I don't, like, bro, worry about yourself. You know what I mean? I guarantee you, if you were in that situation, a multi-billionaire, you would do everything in your power to continue to make money and not lose money. So I get tired of this, well, it's only helping the rich. It's like, okay, well, what are you doing in your life to make more money or other opportunities for yourself? You know what I mean? Like,
What does that have to do with tariffs?
That people say that it only helps the rich and that it affects the middle class the most. That's my point. It does affect the middle class, because people will say that on the short term prices will go up. And when they say short term, I know they said usually between 6 to 8 months is really when like tariffs start to kick in on your domestic prices. But the problem that I have is like a lot of like a certain political side is always like, well, the tariffs are going to ruin this country. And then you got Trump over there being like, I know what I'm doing. Let it play out and we'll see where it goes. You know what I mean? They said last time, by the way, I was watching a Wall Street Journal video, and they, in the Biden exit like letter that he sent to Trump. Now, this probably didn't come from Biden because I don't know if he knows like what was going on. But his administration encouraged, in writing, I saw the letter, encouraged Trump to continue with the tariffs and increase tariffs. That's what it said, like verbatim. So he's like following through. I mean, don't get me wrong. Regardless of what that letter said, he has his own agenda.
Yeah.
But my point is like, everyone's all like, well, this was Trump's idea, or, you know, only Trump would have done this. No. Even in the debates, J.D. Vance was telling
Walls,
like, Trump was telling Kamala, if you're all about getting rid of these tariffs, why didn't you get rid of the ones that I put in place? They've been going on in your leadership this whole time. Like, so that's what I mean. Like, everyone just gets so caught up on, like, we're all going to just suffer. It's going to be Russia 1923, and we're all just going to be asking for bread.
Yeah.
No, Trump has said several times he's for America. Like, and I think he's trying to show that he's very selfish for America. Like, Americans are going to benefit from this. I don't give a fuck about any other fucking country. Even Canada. Canada's catching strays, dude. Like, even he's like, tariffs on Canada.
Yeah.
Bro, when he's starting to, like, tax the Canadians, dude, that's when you know, like, this guy is, like, for real on like, he don't give a fuck where you come from. It's all about America. And I respect that. I mean, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I think it's respectable that he's actually trying to take action, and then you can, criticize a lot of things that he says he wants to do, but I mean, it's really just refreshing to know that things are happening. Like, I mean, you already notice a way bigger like change now, 2 weeks in, than you did, through like Joe Biden's presidency. Like, what waves did he really make, And so I think people are just going to be refreshed to see that things are happening. These are the things that people voted for, and he ran on these same things that he's doing right now are the things that he ran on, and why people supported him, and so people are going to see that, and I think that that's a good direction to follow. Now, with all these executive orders, it seems like those things are pretty much as easily reversed by the next president as they came in this time. Yeah. So hopefully he does take the time to go through the proper channels to like solidify certain things into law. Speaking of that, and sort of related to the immigration, was like the change to birthright citizenship.
Yes.
And this is another thing that it seems like the opposition in my mind can only come from people not understanding the details of it. Like, sure. I think that I gotta think that the people that are really opposed to this think that it means that being born in the United States will never result in citizenship, right, when the truth is that it's just that if you need to have one parent that is a permanent legal resident of the United States. Right. So like if you or I have a kid, then automatically it'll be a citizen, right? Same with, how if it's born in another country, you also have that same citizenship for America. Well, now it's going to be the same way for babies born here. And I think that's a really smart idea. Like, it doesn't make any sense that if you live in another country and you're pregnant, you just got to get over the border, have the baby, and then now you're pretty much safe. Like, why support that? It doesn't make any sense. And people say, oh, that's how your ancestors did it or whatever. But it's like, back then there wasn't as much immigration law. Like, so, correct, they weren't here illegally. They just were here by the laws at the time, and that's fine. But why would you want to encourage people to come here illegally? Like, I just don't get why the average person would be so in support of illegal immigrants.
Well, and more of like the severe criminals. Like, what? Like, these people have murdered people, raped, like burglaries, robberies. Like, we're talking guns to the face. There was one guy who had like literally raped a woman with a gun in her mouth.
Yeah.
Like, what? Like, bro, leave. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, we don't need you here, you know? And so it's wild to me on that part of it. And so is that all you kind of wanted to add to immigration? Because we can kind of go into another section here.
Go take it wherever you want to take it.
So I was watching the news before I left for this today, and they were saying that schools now, at least locally here in Minnesota, are starting to pull away with like diversity posters and stuff in the schools. Like as far as like inclusion, like the DEI stuff, or like other inclusionary posters, whatever you may, he, him, pronouns, stuff like that. So it's interesting to be like, as a school, especially in Minnesota being a liberal state, it makes you wonder like what is causing that school, because Trump, nowhere in the Trump administration are they forcing schools to do that. So it makes me wonder why schools are taking that initiative to do that. Did they feel under the heel of just how society was viewing things? Like I said, like if you are back when Black Lives Matter was a huge thing and tearing down the city, like you would be dumb not to put a sign in your coffee shop, right?
Yeah.
Is it the same concept where they were like,
yeah, I think it's got to be.
We don't want to upset parents, so we're going to put this, it's okay to be an animal or whatever they want to put up on the wall to appease people. And now that they may see that Trump is changing the wave on stuff, are they like pulling back on? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that is a big factor, sort of like with the social media companies we talked about last week or whatever. Like, I think that since they know that the leadership's not going to be pushing for that as much, they don't need to pander to that mindset like they used to. Because it's like there's no benefit to pushing that sort of ideology and like pushing that stuff other than to just avoid taking heat on the news. The last thing that any school wants is to be on the news for anything discriminatory. And so they're going to do everything they can to appease people that would accuse them of that. And so I think that if you know that the people that are funding you no longer really care about that, well, then you're not going to care about that.
Like, to me, like, to people, that should be extremely eye-opening. Like, extremely. The way that schools will just, like, navigate around things. Like, that should be eye-opening, dude. And not only that, but how many times you hear people just ripping on Trump, he's terrible, like, the world's gonna end, like, some of these people are just going over the cliff on stuff. And it's like, if you are ripping on Trump that much, maybe you should take a look at how he won. Like, if he was that bad, that means the other person was that much worse, right? Like,
yeah. Well, people are sick of, the same thing that you were just talking about with the schools and like that ideology and pushing all that stuff. Like, people are getting sick of that, and they. Like when things get kind of bad in your own life, you stop caring so much about everybody else and you just want things to be good for you. And so I think people are transitioning into a time where they're just focused about them. And so that's why all this Americans first rhetoric is going to resonate with so many people because they want the resources to go to us and not people of other countries.
I was seeing like, how many times have you seen those like school board meetings where they have like a book in the library that explains sex to like 12-year-olds and shit.
Yeah.
And, like, bro, that freaks me out, man. Like, I don't want my kid reading about like sex positions at the age of 10 in a library. You know what I mean? Like, that seems wide. Now, that doesn't mean it's happening at schools nearby, but schools do have it in the U.S., and that freaks me out, dude. Like, same thing with the bathroom stuff. Like, I saw one. And it sounded like this was a southern state, but dad and daughter I think was 12, and basically he goes up there and he's like, here's the deal, like the policy you guys just passed says that anyone claiming to be of a certain gender can go into any bathroom that they want that matches with that gender. So he's like, can I go into the girls' bathroom and just stand in there while everyone's going to the bathroom? He's like, I guarantee you, and he pointed to the council or whatever. He said, I guarantee you if I followed you into the bathroom and you told your husband about it, he probably wouldn't appreciate it, right? That I was watching you go to the bathroom or standing next to the, and so it's just crazy to me, like, the thought process on stuff like that, and, like, where's the basic privacy, or, like, just safety, I guess you could say. You know what I mean? I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, and when it comes to the school, like, I mean, you always hear extreme stories like that about, the books in the library, or like teachers talking to kids about, how it's okay to be trans and things like that. Like, that would definitely worry me about public school, but I just don't know how much ideology is really being pushed on to kids, and how much is it just like a extreme example. And then even without the political ideology, like, you have a lot of, there seems to be like a distrust between parents and teachers. Like, I think teachers hate parents nowadays, and parents kind of hate teachers nowadays. And I don't know who's really at fault.
We have a certain uncle who was at your wedding.
Yeah.
Who is a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And he was talking about that. He's like, dude, kids these days, zero consequence.
Yeah.
Like, he was telling us, like, how he got in trouble for literally, so the story went, they were playing dodgeball, and basically this girl's just sitting on the ground, she didn't want to play, and this boy, literally like 3 feet away, just smokes her in the head with the dodgeball.
Okay.
And Troy just puts his arm on the shoulder, no push, no nothing, and says, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, you just hurt her, like, go to the office.
Yeah.
Well, he goes to the office, finds out that the kid claims that he put his hand around the kid's neck.
Okay, great.
And so now, there's issues because it's abusive or something like that, and the kid is away scot-free.
Yeah.
So, like, there's no, like, it's crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the problem is that you're really handing kids all the power. Like, there's really no point in having an authority figure if you know that if the kids find out, they just hold all the cards and they can just immediately dismantle your authority by just lying, right? Making the smallest lie. And if they know, like, you need to have the top of the food chain, the superintendent and everybody all the way down supporting everybody else in that chain. So, like, in order for our uncle to be good at his job and be the authority figure of the classroom and, like, keep kids under control and, basically give them the education that they need, he needs to know that his actions are going to be backed up by the principal. And if the principal is going to try to, back him up, he needs to know that the superintendent is going to have his back, right? Like, if everybody can stand united there, then everything's going to be fine.
Correct.
But as soon as a parent finds out that they can just, they can put the school on the news for some bogus discrimination shit, then all of a sudden the superintendent's going to just cater to the whims of the parent, and now the parent's in charge. That means the kids are really in charge.
And it's the same thing with criminals.
Yeah,
Same
exactly.
thing.
Yeah.
People stealing from stores. They know damn well the employees aren't allowed to touch them. They just walk through and steal hundreds of dollars of merchandise, sometimes thousands.
Mm-hmm.
There's zero consequence. It's the same thing. They know they hold all the cards. It doesn't matter. So it's same concept, dude. Same concept.
Yeah,
So.
but then it's like, I don't know, you might be able to have your wife homeschool the kids.
Yeah, it's an option.
She can just homeschool all the kids in the whole family, bro. We'll just send them all over to your house.
Yeah, you guys can Venmo us a certain amount every month or whatever.
Yeah, it's a little bit complicated. But before this ends, I just want to at least cover one more topic.
Of
so
course,
the Elon Musk Hitler salute.
Yes.
So that happened, and what were your thoughts on that?
Okay, so first of all, I legitimately thought it was like AI.
Oh, okay,
first.
yeah.
I thought it was an AI video.
Yeah.
So I saw the video without sound. I know he was saying like something like it was something that had to do with the election or something like that, right? I believe.
Yeah, I mean, he was talking. I think it might have been. Was at the inauguration. I don't know, but he was. Yeah.
So When I read the article, a lot of people were upset because they're like, well, it's Nazi, like Hitler style, doing that. And Elon responded on X saying, oh, this is, the whole Nazi thing's getting tired. I think he said it's so tired or whatever. And, what I will say is it definitely was not a good look.
Yeah,
right?
it looked very Hitlery.
Yeah, I'll definitely say, bro, you could have done a different, I don't know, do the peace sign from, Star Trek or something. You know what I mean? You don't need to be doing that. Now, I mean, if that's what you want to do, then that's fine, but there is, perception, right? You got to think about certain things that just don't look good. Could you get in trouble for it? No, not necessarily, but you also got to think about, people already think that Trump is Hitler, which is wild in and of itself, but, that does not help the narrative.
No, certainly not.
For example, right? If I arrest somebody, I'm not gonna do a sack dance from the NFL and celebrate on camera, right? Do some Jared Allen that. Would I get technically there's nothing in policy that says I can't do that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't look good, right? Even though that's my job is to help get criminals off the street. So it's a bad look, man. I mean, I was just reading through and look. Maybe he just wasn't thinking, but you gotta, when Trump is being looked at, and literally so many higher class media, all the Tonight Show hosts on all the different channels fucking hate him. You gotta think about that. Now, there's also and I'll let you talk in a second. There's also a portion of Musk is literally the richest man on earth. So he probably doesn't fucking care what people. Who cares? He can do whatever he wants. So what are your thoughts?
Well, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I'm a little torn on it because there's a lot of people that defend it it obviously was not a Nazi salute. And so right after the part that usually the clip will be cut off at, he does say my heart goes out to you. And so that's the main defense that conservative people will have for oh, he was just doing oh, my heart goes out to you because he did the heart and then he went out. Yeah. And so I don't know. It wasn't convincing enough for me. Everyone's we got to watch the full clip. And so I did. And I'm well, I'm still not entirely convinced. It might have just been something he threw out there to cover his ass afterwards. Yeah. He could definitely be a Nazi. And I don't know how things are over in that part of the world that he's from in South America. And he's super wealthy. So, for all I know, he could be a Nazi. I'm not sure. But I would like to. I will never get to the bottom of that, but I think that he has said some things in the past that make it seem like he might have some Nazi ideals. But now, one thing that's interesting is he's not the president, so it's not like we have a Nazi for a president, but he is super close to the president. Right. So anything that he does, Trump. Yeah, and because he's in an interesting position where I heard he's even gonna have a room in the White House or whatever. So he's probably as close to being the president as any billionaire has been before. He's super attached to the hip. So I don't know.
I think if Trump starts to do that, then there's some questions there, But
yeah.
Like I said, Trump is. I don't. People. Like you said, it's a bad look, but I also feel when people already think you're a Nazi, anything you do. You could have a stain on your shirt and that's a swastika. You can see it. You make it into a swastika or something. It's bro, I spilled coffee on my shirt. Relax. You know what I mean? So that's my thought on it. So.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll see how things go going forward.
That's kind of.
But I do wonder though. So let's say that he is a Nazi. Sure. Trump is also a Nazi. Okay. I would like to know where does the line get crossed? What would have to happen at this point for people that have always supported Trump to turn on him and say, oh, whoops, he is a Nazi. Let's all go get him. Or would people double down and just be is this the beginning? This might be.
I don't think so, dude. I think, bro, that's like some smoking weed theories. You know what I mean? I don't think it'll ever get to. I just don't.
Because here's what made me think about that. Because there are people that are so like defending Elon Musk, like it's ridiculous to even think that was a Nazi thing. Like I'm somewhere in the middle where it's like definitely looked like a Nazi thing, but like maybe it wasn't.
Sure.
You know, I don't. It's a gray area at best. But there's people that will make it seem like it's ridiculous to even try to draw that comparison, and I think that's kind of disingenuous. Yeah. And so, for those people, like if they're so blatantly ignoring the similarities or like just blowing off that concern, like what would it take for those people to say, "Oh, I was wrong"?
Yeah, I mean, it would probably be like, "Hey, certain group of people, you're going to go to camps." Like, I think it would be to the point where it's like, "Okay, now we are starting to go like down the path of like actual genocide."
Yeah.
And I think at that point, like, there are stops in place in our government to just completely just take care of that if that were to happen.
Right.
So we're not like Germany was back in the 30s and 40s. Like, that's not, yeah, I don't know. I don't think that's,
yeah.
That's like
yeah, me
wild,
neither.
But anyway, what else did you want to cover? You said there were a couple more.
Was there anything else here? We did the I mean, the only other thing I had was like executive orders. I can't like so the main thing, I mean there's hundreds of them. Yeah. But one thing that I was thinking about is I was looking at the list of executive orders. Yeah. And there's so much stuff that is being signed. I mean literally hundreds of executive orders, and they're all pretty lengthy within themselves. It's just kind of interesting, like could there be anything in there that's a little weird? Like, I wonder if there's a strategy where it's like throw so much stuff out there that people can't even like keep track of it. Like he could throw in a totally fucked up executive order in there that's like number like 165. Yeah. And like, because it's kind of like how you talked about before. Anytime they introduce legislation, it's so long, you don't really know what's in there. Right. Like, I don't know what just happened. I know a couple of them, because of the funny headlines. But hopefully someone's reading all this stuff.
Yeah, no, look, I think, when I was watching those executive order videos, it was hilarious every time. Be like, "Oh, that's a big one." And he'd sign it, and the guy would be like, "Sir, this is, so and so and so," and then he'd say the same thing. "Well, that's a big one," and then do his big black Donald. You'd see the big, D, and then Trump or whatever. What I thought was interesting with those though is he had the media in the Oval Office for part of his signings of those. I think they said that was the first time a president has ever done that. So I think that helps with maybe like transparency or something. I mean, we've all seen the videos where Trump will call out fake news because they'll like spit out facts or whatever, and then he'll look at his assistant, and then assistant will say different numbers and be like, "You're fake news, whatever, like, don't talk to me," that kind of stuff.
Well, it's very good for the optics because it just shows that stuff is happening. Like, I mean, that's really what he wants to show is like,
yeah.
He's like, yeah, I'm president and I'm doing stuff. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that, again, like if Joe Biden was putting this much work in his first couple of days, like it definitely wasn't this obvious. Like you can agree or disagree with the direction things are going, but you can't deny that like he's actually putting things into action.
I feel like from Trump's first term to Biden to now Trump's second term, Trump did a lot in the beginning, in his first term. Like he pretty much almost a carbon copy of, I don't know if he did as many like executive orders, but similar. Came in there and was like, "Look, day one, I'm doing this stuff." Biden, I felt like was just treading water. Like he's just there. You know what I mean? And like his cabinet's just taking care of shit. In fact, I saw a video, we'll wrap up real quick here, but I saw a video of a guy who was talking to Biden about, it wasn't tariffs. Maybe it was tariffs. It was some type of foreign trading. And basically, he had questions on why, he said respectfully, he's like, I asked Biden why he had signed off on this because of like these consequences. Again, I can't remember. I'll try and find the video to send you. But the essentially Biden's like, I didn't do that. And the guy guy's like, yes, you did. You signed off on this. And he's like, well, no, I didn't. And he said, sir, with all due respect, you did sign off on this. Like, it just goes to show, like, how much did he know what the hell was going on?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so, anyway.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at. Yeah.
Well, we will see how things progress. So,
Yes. All right. Well, thanks for joining us this week. We post new videos every single week, whether it's our full episode or shorts. So please keep tuning in, and we'll keep posting. Thank you.